Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our East Bay Regional Park District Board Operations Committee meeting. And welcome, we have some great things to talk about on the agenda, which you will hear more about in a moment. So I would like to ask Denise Valentine, who's helping us to lead this committee, to go ahead and let us know what we have to think about as we start the meeting.
Sure. I'll begin with roll call.
Yes.
Director Wieskamp.
Here.
Director Rosario.
Here.
Director Corbett.
Here.
DGM O'Connor.
Here.
Acting AGM Castile.
Here.
And also staff presenters and participating staff members today include Tiffany Margolisi, Ruby Tumber, Mike Moran, Kelsey Gillen, and Robert Kennedy. Today's meeting is being held pursuant to the Brown Act as amended by AB 361. Board members and staff may participate via phone or video conferencing. Today's meeting is being conducted virtually with live audio and video streaming provided. Public comments may be submitted live via Zoom, via email or voicemail as noted on the agenda located on the Park District website. If there are any questions about the meeting procedures, we will begin.
Any questions, anyone? Okay, thank you very much for getting us going here. We have 3 items on the agenda, all quite interesting, 2 of them that are connected to each other. But the first one we're going to talk about is our Oakland Strokes annual update at the Martin Luther King Jr. shoreline, the regional shoreline. And I think we have some great speakers. Mike Moran put together the written document, but also we will have with us today the executive director of the Oakland Strokes group, Dana Hooper, and head of the community programs, Frank Clayton, to let us know what's going on down there. So please go ahead.
I'll go and get us started. Thank you very much, Director Corbett. Good afternoon, Board Operations Committee members, Director Corbett, Director Rosario, Director Wieskamp, and all guests and staff. My name is Mike Moran. I'm one of the Regional Interpretive and Recreation Services Managers. I'm in the Northwest region, and that includes the Tidewater Boating Center. Thanks for the opportunity to introduce the presentation of the outreach and community engagement efforts of the Oakland Strokes, who are long-term tenants at Tidewater Boating Center. Please also allow me to introduce Kelsey Gillen. Kelsey is our outdoor recreation supervisor who leads the stellar recreation staff at Tidewater Boating Center and is attending to observe the presentation. The Oakland Strokes have been a long-term leaseholder with the Park District since 2011 at the Tidewater Boating Center and Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline. And part of the lease includes the provision for the Strokes to provide an annual update to the Park District Board Operations Committee on their community outreach programs. And as you mentioned, Director Corbett, Oakland Strokes Executive Director Dana Hooper and Head of Community Programs Frank Clayton will provide this update. And I'll turn it over to Dana and Frank. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, and welcome.
All right, thank you so much. I am going to attempt to share my screen. We'll see how this goes. So please let me know if you can see my screen there with our presentation. All right, thanks, Mike. All right, so it's wonderful to be back in front of you to give our presentation for this year. As Mike noted, this is about our community engagement programs. We want to talk a little bit about our ongoing programs, some of the growth that we've seen, and just give you a little glimpse into what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. With me is Frank Clayton. He was recently hired into our new head of community programs position, but you may recognize him before. He's been involved with our community programs for several years. Okay. All right. So first, we just want to acknowledge that the collaboration we have with the Park District staff has really been invaluable to maintaining our programming through the pandemic and now out into the future. I'm not sure if we can all say that we're post-pandemic yet, considering where we are right now, but really appreciate that help, and we look forward to continuing to work with them. Special thanks, we want to give thanks to Ann Kassabaum, who is trying to retire, but hasn't quite done that yet, to Mike Moran, Tiffany Margulisi. They've both been really helpful on the administrative side for us. Toby Perry, who's been a great partner and kept us informed on what's going on with the park projects, and then also for Kelsey Gian. And she's been someone who we really work with hand in hand down there, and has really helped to build a very supportive environment at the boathouse. So we're really thankful to be working with them. And what we've seen over the last few years is that our work is really it's centered on building relationships. These relationships are everywhere from at the level of the athlete who's down at the boathouse, the middle school and high school athletes, their parents, and also the programs, schools and programs that we go to in order to recruit the students to come down to the boathouse. And this is all in service of creating opportunities to familiarize middle school and high school students with rowing, to establish our long-term partnerships with the local schools and organizations to create pathways for students to get on the water at Tidewater. And over the last year, Frank and I have really worked hard to try to create some sustained pathways into rowing, and we'll be talking about those programs in just a little bit. But trying to create pathways that are year to year, consistent, they're free to low cost programs to get those students into rowing at our middle school and high school level. Again, those sustained pathways and are necessary to create long-term partnerships with the schools and organizations. And really, since we've had some success over the last few years, make sure that we're engaging in proven evidence-based practices and build on those things. It's worth talking about this again. We talked about this last year, but over the last few years, we've amended our mission statement and our athlete handbook, our employee handbook, and the club materials to really emphasize a welcome and an inclusive environment. Our mission is to provide student athletes of all background and abilities the opportunity to row, develop, and commit to a team that competes at a national level. Our program fosters strength of character, a strong work ethic, self-confidence, and a respect for others. We're aligned with the Park District's resolution denouncing racism and systemic racial injustice, and we're committing to strengthening the culture of inclusion and belonging in our club hand in hand with the Park District. Part of that continued commitment is over the last year, the Oakland Strokes staff has dedicated over 200 hours of direct coaching to our community programs. Over the last couple of years, 3 board members have each devoted 250 to 300 hours to our community programs. Through one of the local partnerships with We Lead Hours, we found Dwayne Akins. He's the founder of WeLo, and we invited him to come onto our board so that we had some direct access into the local programs in East Oakland. All of our community programs are at low or no cost to the participants, and we continue to provide feed waivers and reductions for athletes who bridge into our middle school and high school programs from the community programs. The programs that we're going to talk today we're going to talk a little bit about the We Lead Hours Community Sunday Fitness Program. We just mentioned Dwayne Akins, who's the founder there, and that's where our board members have been devoting their volunteer hours to community building through consistent participation in youth training on Sundays at a park in East Oakland. Our weekend Learn to Row programs have continued to be a really successful pathway into our high school and middle school programs. And these are trips to Tidewater with new and current partners for a weekend of rowing for Oakland youth. The third program we're going to be talking about is our Arise High School Enrichment Program. These are semester-long classes for the students at our partner high school, Arise, located in Fruitvale. This is on the water training at Tidewater for 12 to 14 weeks over the course of a semester. And the last is we're going to be talking about our STEM to Turn middle school rowing program. We spoke about that a little bit last year, but that is a program that is integrated with our middle school rowing program. It's an evidence-based approach to middle school rowing that addresses 8 of the most identified barriers to youth rowing. Before we jump into those programs, just wanted to show a map of where our partner programs are. So the shaded area is the draw areas for Castlemont High School and Fremont High School, and that's defined in our lease as our service area. And that includes a large piece of industrial area and also the runway at the Oakland Airport for some reason. But you can see that most of our partners are within that service area, but we're also committed to looking for partners outside of that service area. So you see that we have some in West Oakland, as well as Roosevelt Middle School, which is a little bit outside that draw area. So we're looking for partners who are interested in our programs, who want to partner with us to provide these long-term programs for their students, for their athletes. All right. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Frank Clayton to talk about our community engagement and go into greater detail about our programs themselves.
All right, thank you, Dana.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Appreciate it. So our community engagement programs, we're focused on, we talked about this, and they may have talked about this last year, about this being a two-way street, right? Us really engaging ourselves and being a part of the community, not just some outside entity coming in and plucking students away. So one of the ways we do that is showing up, right? Showing up to events, tabling, getting out information. One of the events we've attended in the past year is an inaugural East Oakland Future Festival that highlighted different programs in the area that specifically catered to East Oakland youth. Outdoor play over at Liberation Park, which is a nice, unique area, formerly known as Eastmont Mall, has a beautiful park. They do a lot of events there. So we have been participating in their outdoor play program there, and strategically partnering with the current city council member, Lauren Taylor, at his Easter egg hunt. Each year, we've been there 2 years in a row, and as well as various community fairs for middle schools, one being West Oakland Middle School. So this allows us to kind of, like I said, show up in ways that aren't related to rowing, to be a trusted, invested entity in the community. And with the plan and idea is to get folks down interested in our Learn to Row program. So our Learn to Row program is really the day that we get to introduce students to a free 2-day session where they actually learn how to row on the water. We joke and say that rowers love the erg machine, but to get into the spirit of loving this sport, you actually have to get on the water. So this allows us to do that. In our, as you can see in some of the pictures, we have our nice singles that are pretty durable, that they can take a beating, so we can get even the most novice out there on the water, having some fun with the pontoons on them to make them feel nice and comfortable and safe, all of those things. So as you can see, some of the numbers, right, we're able to accommodate 10 to 20 students per day. And we've had over 100 students in the past year or so being able to partner. And the Learn to Row really is a feeder to all our other programs. The Rise High School relationship is one of those examples of us starting at the surface level and really being engaged with when we are able to have a staff that is consistent. We started off doing what we call a post session with a Rise, and it really was an end of the year, week-long session where they came down the row for that week. They enjoyed it so much and thought the students got such a great benefit out of it. They actually encouraged us, once they started their enrichment program, to then partner with their enrichment program, as Dana mentioned earlier. And their enrichment program really is a semester-long rowing. So they get a weekly experience down on the water. And so they get to, our coaches come out, and it really is like a class. They're not down there with anyone else. We get to focus on just those athletes, and they get to learn at an accelerated pace. And each cohort is generally between 15 and 20 athletes at a time for a semester-long program that they do receive a grade for. One of our newer programs that we started last year, and they believe they presented, we probably were just starting it at the time, is our STEM to STERN middle school rowing. STEM to STERN is a nationally recognized program that we are kind of a franchisee of. We run this program using some of their models and some of their techniques. It's fully run by Oakland Strokes. And we are able to, again, address those barriers that have been identified and use strategic partnerships with programs like UC Berkeley, with East Bay Rowing Club, Oaklantis Swim Club, to provide this STEM to STERN program, which is essentially a 2 times a week on the water program, coupled with a STEM and swim lesson on the 3rd day. Right, so athletes get to be engaged in STEM, and they get water safety as a result of our partnership with Oaklantis and the swimming club. Huge success in this program over the year with consistency. Right, one of the markers that we like to highlight is the consistency of the athletes coming down that are a part of this program. And one of the things I like, it really, once they get down to the boathouse, they're part of Oakland Strokes, right? There's no differentiation about what type of program they're in. They're part of our middle school program. And that's how they show up. That's how how we're interacting with them. Again, we had 14 athletes in the spring of 2020. And 3 of those athletes advanced up to our advanced middle school, and 8 re-enrolled. So the retention of this program is very promising and very advantageous for the athletes. They come in now, they're the leaders, right? Because we have our middle school sessions. They come in, they get an opportunity to be the leaders for our new middle school students that come in. And just some highlights for STEM to STERN as an organization, right, and a partner with us. They have partnered with US Rowing. They actually franchise out 25 different programs across the country. And again, they're all independently run using the structure of STEM to STERN, and actually just won an award for DEI Choice Award for the United States Olympic Club and Paralympic Committee. Just want to highlight one of our athletes who actually participated, a young lady who came to Learn to Row and then immediately joined our STEM to STERN program. Her mother was so excited about it. And they just happened to get a message from a friend based on our promoting. She came down, she told her mother immediately she was going to be one of the best to do it. And so just want to share a quote from her mom who says, "I like the program because it gives my daughter an opportunity for a new experience that she has become to love, with an awesome staff that she enjoys. And with this program, she wants to continue further." And it was great to hear that from a parent, not just an athlete, but from a parent to know, because one of our intentions is to really engage parents. And so that was a quote from Zamoria's mom, Markea Spikes. And one of our strategies, we've been really thinking strategically about how we engage community, not outreach, but engage community. And so one of those things we've done is actually hired coaches from community. And so Marquita is one of our coaches who've come straight out of East Oakland. She would tell you she's born and raised. She's around kids all the time. She actually has a great relationship with East Bay Regional Parks as an urban developer. So she's very familiar with the shoreline. So she was really excited to come on board. She doesn't have a background in rowing, and she is learning to love the sport. And so just to read her quote, share her quote. Transporting the STEM to STERN kids to their East Oakland boathouse lights me up every time. I'm becoming a lover of rowing and the transferable skills it has to offer. And so, again, invested in community and making it a two-way street is something that we really are intentional about doing. This is what we do. This is who we are. It's not what we do. And so with that being said, thank you all for your time, and we welcome any questions at this time.
Thank you. Very impressive comments from Marquita. You should have brought her to the meeting today. Yeah. All right, board members, do you have any quick questions? And thank you for the presentation. I can't see you both, so it looks like Anne has her hand up.
You know, it's just, thanks for the great presentation. You've come such a long way, you know, over the years, the relationship between the staff there, your staff, the people who run the organization. But I think what I especially like is seeing someone like that last young lady who's become an addict, basically. And we have great expectations. As far as I'm concerned, you've done a great job. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dee?
Yeah, I wanted to echo Director Wieskamp's statements there that, yes, you've come a long way, and I really appreciate the efforts there to reach out to the community. It's really starting to show. And my question for you is there there's the best kids are focused into teams. Is there an opportunity for some of the kids that don't want to be on a team but still want to row? Is there recreational opportunities as well?
Yes, our clubs are kind of broken up into levels, right? So we have a club, what we call a club team, and a competitive team. So the club team is what our a lot of our STEM to STERN kids first participated in. And as I highlighted, we had 3 of those kids who actually enjoy the competitive aspect and moved up into our competitive team over this past year.
Cool. And then what is the swim lessons comprise of? Is it more than just one day?
It is. And so this last session was 5 weeks, 5 weeks of swim lessons. And in the spring, it's actually a little longer.
Yeah. And is that in the estuary, or is that in a pool?
Oh, no, we have Oakland. This is a partner of ours, and they actually swim out of Oak Hill Pool over at Oakland High.
Oh yeah, I love that pool. Well, great. I like this. Congratulations to you on recruiting Akita. She's wonderful, and congratulations on your program so far. It looks very promising, and like I said, like Director Wieskamp said, you have come a long way, and very much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and you're all welcome down at the boathouse anytime. Just let us know. We'll get you out on a launch, and you can see it in action.
Great.
That's a great idea. You see, when they're a team, it's really out there giving their all.
What is a good time of year for us to come visit?
Depends on how cold you want to get. You know, it's starting to get cold and dark, and so if you're of hardy stock, then you can come out right now. But I think probably in the spring, probably in the April-ish time frame is probably the best time to come out. It always fascinates me how much colder it is out on the water than it seems when you're standing on shore. So you're welcome anytime, but you might want to wait for the weather to warm up a bit.
Yeah.
One last question. Do you guys have an adult program as well?
We do not. We are high school and middle school only.
Okay.
We are sort of friendly with a club called East Bay Rowing Club. They run out of the Jack London Aquatic Center, a little bit closer to Jack London Square, and they run adult-only programs. And we actually have several of them are involved in helping us with our STEM education, so they are listed as one of our partner clubs. So that would be who we recommend if you're interested in trying out rowing as an adult.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And then a question for operations is, yeah, especially now that it's getting darker and earlier now, do we have lights there now, and have we improved security there? Because I know we've had some break-ins there during some of these events.
So see if Kelsey is still here with us, or to Kelsey. Yeah, there you go. Kelsey, would you mind fielding that?
Yes, so we do have a fully upgraded lights around the building, around all of the buildings that have just been finished a couple months ago. So it is pretty bright here now in the evening. Parking lot doesn't necessarily have new lights yet because of the Tidewater construction project is not finished. So once that's finished, I believe they'll be lighting throughout the parking lot.
Great.
Director Corbett, DG O'Connor has his hand raised.
Yes, I have some questions too. So first of all, I agree with my colleagues. It's so nice to see the growth in the programs that you've been putting together. And I know you know what I'm talking about because you've been to these meetings and you have, it seems like you really have more and more students getting interested in the program. So let me ask about how many students do you get involved in these programs that we've been talking about, making sure that we have people coming from the neighborhoods near the area to be interested. And that's what we see is happening with this, right? Are a lot of these folks new neighbors that are coming to be part of the program?
Yeah, so if we can focus sort of directly on STEM to Stern. So STEM to Stern grew from about 4 athletes in the fall last year to 14 in the spring. And then as Frank noted, 3 of them continued up into our middle school program, our advanced middle school program, and then another 8 re-enlisted, I guess, if you can say it that way, re-enrolled in our program. And so that's the STEM to Stern program currently. And we're looking to grow probably another 6 or 8 students. I think one of the issues that we've seen is around staffing. I think everyone has had that issue. So right now we're kind of limited by staffing for how big that program can grow. So we're looking for opportunities to grow that over time. In terms of our RISE program, it's been anywhere from about 5 or 6 athletes out to 12 to 15 athletes. It sort of depends on the enrollment that they have at their school. In our Learn to Row programs, we're running one every 2 months, and we'll have anywhere from 8 to 15 usually in one of those programs.
So do you usually have as many students as you can put into these programs, or would you be looking for more? And are they from the neighborhoods in the surrounding area near the?
Correct.
near
Yeah.
the rivers?
Right. And so in those programs, the Arise program, they're all students of Arise High School, which is right there at Fruitvale BART. And then for the STEM to Stern program, they are usually students from a partner school. And so there's 3 or 4 schools that are in East Oakland that we partner with, and also one school that we partner with that's in West Oakland. So that they're all from the neighborhood. And Frank and I are trying to grow the programs. We maximize the space that we have in our current programs, and so we're looking for strategies to grow over the next year or so.
Okay. And do you see support from the local grammar schools in those areas?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Frank can probably talk more directly to that because he's the one having those conversations every day. So I'll stop talking and let him talk.
How can we get them encouraged?
They're always eager to participate. And I think over the past year, the type of school has changed. And so the consistency, the retention of the school always matters. And so with like Arise, the relationship is deep enough that we've always been able to go back, and we're not a new face each year. So I think that has helped with a school like Ile Omade, who provides a lot of our STEM to Stern athletes. We're able to go back. And so that, they're always encouraged and excited about it.
Great. I don't know if I've told you this before, but I'm particularly impressed and always been interested in growing the number of students we can get from this neighborhood. It's because I grew up in East Oakland, 82nd Avenue. So I get very excited when I see you bringing in these students. So that's wonderful. Yeah. So any other comments, questions from board members? Oh, yes, Mr. O'Connor, please tell us, you've been working on these programs over the years as well.
I have, and I have to give a lot of credit to Dana and Frank. Really nice work. You know, for years, what we've been looking for, the word I use is transference. You know, from your recreational rowing type programs into the more competitive program or the club program, and it looks like you've got a formula there. You just got to keep working it, and so it's a 180 degree turnaround in terms of the information that's being presented here annually. And I really encourage you to keep going. I think it's great. It's exactly what, you know, originally when we got the grants to develop this facility, this was the intention, was to have that real connection to the neighborhood. So congratulations. I think it's great. And thank you very much.
Yes. And do we see some of the young students, do we see them moving up into the other programs? Do you see them moving up? Tell me more about that, a little history of that.
Yeah, so we highlighted in the report that we had 3 of the 14 STEM to STERN athletes who moved into our advanced middle school program. So that's a 4-day-a-week program that is meant for like mostly 8th graders. And so they're in that program now, and they're going to compete in the racing and do that kind of stuff. And then hopefully we can convince them to come up into our high school program next year when they're old enough for that. And then there was another athlete, I think we may have featured him last year, who came out of our Learn to Row program, went directly into our advanced middle school program, and is now rowing with our high school program. So we are seeing that transference up into our programs that Jim was talking about. It's still in its infancy. We're going to have to support it and make sure that we're giving those athletes everything they need in order to be successful. And then we also have to be very introspective about our program to make sure that it's a welcoming place for them. So we're engaged in all those aspects of making sure that this is a continued thing, not a one-off, and that, you know, next year there'll be some more kids in the advanced middle school program, more kids into the high school program, and so on and so forth, and continue to build. You know, that is a long-term goal for Frank and I, that we want to see one of our really successful high school programs have an athlete that came out of the community programs that we're doing right now. And we definitely think that that's something that's going to be happening, hopefully sooner than later.
So how do you guys feel about how it's doing, how the program is growing? How do you feel about that?
I personally am very excited by it.
Okay.
Frank?
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, like with the addition of Keita, just for the insight of, you know, from a person from East Oakland's perspective, like Dana just mentioned, you want to prepare the soil, so to speak. And so from every aspect of our engagement, it's happening. And I can see the difference. I can tell the difference. The coaches are having a conversation. The athletes are having conversations. And so it's a great place for anybody to come and row. And that's you know, I'm excited about it. And then we might have presented, you know, by Francisco a few years ago, who came from Arise and is still rowing at UC Davis.
Yeah, I believe he was the featured athlete 2 years ago. So he rowed with Arise. He transferred into our high school program. He's now at UC Davis. He's a sophomore, and just saw him a couple weekends ago at a big race. He was racing with UC Davis. So that's the kind of success that we're looking to have on a consistent basis.
Well, that's quite impressive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else anybody would like to add?
Just saying, you've developed a culture and it just seems to be going really well. And such a positive thing to happen in that area. I know Ellen has been really, Dee also came from that area originally, right?
That's right.
Oh, yeah, that was my backyard.
Yeah,
You are
That
just,
that whole area that was a
isn't
housing
it
project.
amazing to see this happen? So keep up the good work. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a far cry from all the kids in the neighborhood used to play in the estuary. We used to build rafts out of debris and we'd float out there in the estuary.
Dee, you were innovative. Look at it that way.
we won't tell everybody about
We were
it.
lucky we didn't drown.
Yeah, well, I'm glad of that too.
We were involved in back when we were kids. All right. Well, thank you so much. And let's see, I saw Mr. Castile.
Yeah, I just want to say it's pretty inspiring, just to see that you've really increased your outreach programs and that you're growing it, and you're having success with it. You're bringing the kids all the way from the elementary schools in and, teaching them not only how to swim, but making them feel comfortable and confident in what they're doing in the rowing program so that you're actually getting them to be interested in, retention and, continuing on even through high school. So congratulations on your success on that.
All right. And don't forget to invite us to something. We'll come down. We'd love to do that. Thank you. All right. Any other comments?
Good job.
Okay. Thanks again, everybody. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
I think there should be a board tour.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's put something together. Mr. Castile, set us up. We're ready. All right. Okay. Our next item is a review of the authorization to enter into a special use agreement with the Taylor Family Foundation at Camp Arroyo.
Great, thank you. Deputy GM O'Connor, do you want to say any opening words or shall I take it?
Sure, I'll say a few words. One, first of all, again, this is another program I've been involved with for years and years with Elaine and her staff. And I think Elaine and Paul Miller are here. And I'm really glad that we're able to continue our partnership between the Taylor Family Foundation and the Park District. I think it serves a very unique community of children with serious illness and disabilities. And I think it's really important work that they do. And I'm glad that we can continue to work with them. And so into the future. And we've worked out we have a good partnership also with our concessionaire that operates the facility. And I think this is just probably about as good as I've seen it in many, many years in terms of the interrelationships and the partnerships. So I'm really glad that we can continue this. So that's it for me. I'll pass it back to you, Tiffany.
Okay, wonderful. Good afternoon, Tiffany Margalisi, currently acting chief for interpretive and recreation services, and presenting this item from my home role as business services manager. Deputy GM O'Connor and myself have been meeting with the Taylor Family Foundation, specifically Elaine Taylor, the president and chairman of the board, for the better part of this year over a series of conversations about the future of Camp Arroyo. And so I'm happy today to be able to share staff's recommendation, and later in the presentation, we'll be introducing Elaine and her team. I'm going to share my screen. One moment. And I'm going to make it the full screen. And do you see the full screen mode?
Notes.
Not quite.
And I'm going to swap. How's that?
There you go.
Okay, wonderful. Also supporting this presentation today and all the activities at camp, we have Assistant Finance Officer Jeff Rasmussen. A little bit later in the presentation, I'm going to be talking about capital project updates at camp, because I think hopefully the committee will enjoy hearing about that. We also have Facilities Supervisor Sarah Lamborn and Administrative Analyst Renee Patterson, who did a lot of the heavy lifting to bring all this recommendation together. So here I am to present the Taylor Family Foundation Special Use Agreement. And shown in the opening slide is a beautiful mural that's in the dining hall depicting camp. For the presentation, I'll talk about where Camp Arroyo is located, what special use agreements are in general at the Park District. And then I will give a little introduction to the Taylor Family Foundation, which after I'm done speaking, you'll get an even fuller presentation or orientation to the Taylor Family Foundation from Elaine herself. I'll be talking about the length and terms of the agreement, staff's recommendation, and then, like I said, introducing our guests. If anyone doesn't know, Camp Arroyo is located in Livermore, in part of unincorporated Alameda County. And it's a beautiful, beautiful location, beautiful views, very remote, and very fortunate to have a camp developed here. I'm going to go back one sec here on the location in the board report, and when Elaine speaks, we have a very special relationship, a long-term relationship with the Taylor Family Foundation, who was integral in partnering with the district in the development of camp. And so we'll be talking more about that. In terms of the special use or special use agreements, special use agreements are agreements that have a public benefit with a nonprofit organization that serves the public. And we have about 28 special use agreements for a variety of different services and groups that have different types of more unique uses within the parks. And so staff's recommending that we use this agreement for the next future of the Taylor Family Foundation agreement. TTFF, as we say, has a long history and a deep service to youth and families. And I'm going to read their mission because it's very concise and well crafted. Their mission is to preserve the wellness and enhance the quality of life for children in Northern California living with life-threatening and chronic illnesses, developmental differences, and youth at risk through unique therapeutic experiences and support. And many, but not all, of the unique therapeutic experiences and support occur at Camp Arroyo through week-long camp programs or during the school year weekend programs. I shared some photos from the TTFF website of the founders, Elaine Taylor and Barry Taylor, and wanted to just recognize their service and contribute just so much heart and passion in what they imagined for this organization and what it's become today. One notable thing about, of many things to note about the camps is they are free. They are no cost to the participants. TTFF does about 30 sessions a summer. It's about 3,000 campers a summer, and also including some weekends. Since their inception, they've served more than 100,000 children and over 150,000 families, making a incredible impact to many families' lives. Here, I'm going to go through point by point what the current agreement has been and what the proposed new agreement is. So in terms of length, the initial agreement with the Taylors has been 20 years, 2002 to 2022. So the 20-year agreement that was a partnership to develop the camp is coming to an end at the end of 2022. We are looking forward to the future to up to another 20 years, but looking at it in smaller increments so that both parties can continue to evaluate how things are going and how things are evolving. So for the proposed new agreement, it'll be an initial term of 3 years, and then we'll have option terms in 3 to 5 year increments for up to 20 years. The TTFF does not pay any fee to the district, and that is in light of the tremendous service and contribution that they're giving to the community through their free camp programs. TTFF has guaranteed days at camp. So they get the summer month block and then up to 24 non-summer overnight experiences and up to 14 non-summer day events. that they may use. So they're like in retail, what you might call an anchor tenant. TTFF is like an anchor tenant at camp. They're kind of like guaranteed business, and there's a lot of benefit to all the parties in the district and the operator to having a group that we know will consistently be there year after year. Down to the second to last point, the TTFF will have discounted lodging and food rates. So over the first 20 years, it was a very minimal change in rate over the 20 years. And that was a long time to not have rate increases. So for the proposed new agreement, the food rate will be increasing annually with the consumer price index. So basically inflation, just so that we can keep pace with the rising cost of food. Lodging rate would be negotiated at each option. So the initial 3 years, as we get to the end of the first 3 years, we would talk, what will the lodging rate be for the next 3 years? And that gives all the parties at camp an opportunity to continue to evolve and grow and meet the current conditions. TTFF also has office, storage, and utilities, and those are at Camp Arroyo, and the utilities are paid by the operator, which is the presentation after this action. And we're not proposing any change. So largely, we're keeping the structure in place with some price increases and then opportunity to continue to make changes and adjustments into the future on a shorter timeline rather than the initial agreement, which was for the entire 20-year period. I just wanted to show the committee in terms of the discounted rates that the Taylor camps will utilize. For the first 20 years, 2002 to 2022, it ended up being about $35, $35.82 per camp per person per night. So it is, when you compare it to 2002 prices, it is a big increase to go to what we're looking at in green, which is the price per night will range from $65.25 up to $76.25. And it'll vary depending on the group size. So, however, when you compare it against, compared to what we charge to other groups, schools, and conferences, it is still a significant discount. The price for schools and conferences generally is between $95 and $100 a night. And again, staff supports this recommendation for a discounted food and lodging rate in light of all of the service that's being provided to the community through the Taylor Family Foundation. So that's the overview. In terms of the recommendation, staff is recommending to this committee to approve and recommend to the full board a special use agreement with the Taylor Family Foundation for the initial 3-year term with option terms up to a maximum of 25 years, or 20 years, excuse me. And with that, I'm going to stop my screen share, and I'd like to introduce Elaine Taylor. As I mentioned, she's the president of the Taylor Family Foundation and chairman of the board for the Taylor Family Foundation. And Elaine, if you'd like to say a few words about the background and service and history, and also introduce Paul Miller from your team.
Good afternoon and welcome.
Oh,
Okay, there we go.
There.
Hi, well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and thanks for having us. I'll start with Paul Miller. Paul Miller is the secretary on the board of the Taylor Family Foundation, also my co-trustee, and actually helped me start the foundation, he and his wife. So we started back in 1990, and for our first 7 years, we basically funded the HIV program at Children's Hospital. But one of the things and how I got to, and there's some of you who I don't think know the exact history. So I think if you're open to it, I will go ahead and explain how we came to East Bay Regional Parks.
Yes, please
but
do.
Thank you. So one of the reasons that it all happened was way back, East Bay had a program where for $50 a student, you would have a summer day camp program for 5 days. Inner city kids could come. And so my husband and I at the time thought, oh my God, for $5,000, we can send so many kids to this camp, right? And it was aside from only working with HIV children. And so we every year did that. And then we decided we would build a camp for HIV children because there was nowhere for them to go. In the Bay Area, there were 1,000 infected and affected children in the HIV community. So I thought it would be so simple to build a camp, and I thought everybody would welcome me in their community to build this wonderful place for these children to go. And that was not the case, and nobody wanted it. So at the time, I knew of Pat O'Brien, but I had never met him. And so I just reached out, called him, told him what we were trying to do, build this camp. And he asked if we would have lunch with him. And so we did, or I did actually. And Pat told me his story about wanting to build a science education program out on a property in Livermore. And for us, that was great because if a child needed to be medevac, it was 20 minutes basically to Children's Hospital. And so we had lunch. We wrote a memorandum of understanding on a lunch napkin, shook hands, and started the project. And so it took 3 years, basically. The first year was for the master plan, and then the next 2 years was building. And our continued work at raising money. So because we weren't going to take a loan on our portion of what we committed to. And in the beginning, we committed to $2 million. And by the end of the total build out, we had invested $6 million. So it was a big project for us, but over the long run of time. And that was very important to us, that we had a 20-year contract with a 20-year renewal. And so that $6 million really helped support why we had the lower rates. And so as we went on, we started only with HIV kids, but by the time we opened, there were only 300 children in the Bay Area who were infected or affected. So it opened the door to all these different programs that we now serve of medically fragile children, children with cognitive differences, youth at risk, and chronic illnesses. And so last year we did 33 programs in 93 days. And this year we've added 2 new programs. So we play with the calendar, and part of that is because of the school district shortening the summer for the kids. And now they go back mid-August, which takes away basically 10 days of camp for us. And so we play with the calendar, move them around, and we do quick turnovers and get them in and make shorter programs sometimes and longer programs. And if it's a life-threatening program, it will be a 5-night program. And so we now do about 3,000 children. We have probably had, I would say, with all of the things that we do, probably over 100,000 kids have come through the door for our programs. And I know you guys have had way more because the school programs are bigger and shorter. And so they, there's been so many children who have come through the doors. And one of the things that we loved doing, we were really good at getting a lot of public, PR work. We had a lot of stories done on Camp Arroyo. We had print media, and we also have, I think we have 10 23-minute stories with ABC7 on Camp Arroyo. So it's been it's been a pleasure. It's been this amazing, to me, marriage of two really different programs that balanced each other out. And a lot of our kids will go through the science ed program and can't wait to come back to their medical program, you know, because they've been and they can show their peers around. And for us, you know, camp's a really special place in the sense of, when Pat and I were talking, the big thing was in Northern California, we wanted both to create a community that was compassionate and was of service to the kids and families who otherwise wouldn't get to camp. You know, they were either Title I kids, they were raised in poverty, or they had an illness that forced their family into poverty. And that still happens today. And so having these kids come out and us supporting them is an amazing, if you've never been out to one of our medically fragile camps, you should come out. Last weekend, we did preschool burn survivor children. And what goes on with the families and the mentors and the firefighters who are all burn survivors themselves. And the fact that they look to older children as hope for their younger child to come, and they will grow up. There is a chance they're going to be okay at the end of the day. And I think that's what the whole camp program does. And my husband, who grew up with very humble beginnings and went to church camp every summer, his big dream about camp was, it's what carried him through. And he ended up being an amazingly successful businessman and mentor in Northern California. And so the camp program just, it adds so much value to everybody's life. It's enriched my life beyond what I could ever imagine. And I know Jim and I have talked about it, Tiffany and I have talked about it, how important it is that we keep this going. I may be dancing in the Milky Way in 20 years, but camp will be able to go on without me, with the support of who we put in place. And so having this 20-year extension contract is critically important. And quite frankly, I like the 3-year idea because after COVID and after different environments of our children who, you know, needing, some don't need camp anymore. There's like 4 HIV children in all of Northern California now. So that's a big deal. So they don't need camp for a whole week anymore. They want to come for a picnic. So that opened the door to a whole new camp. So with you guys adopting the new contract and us having the ability and flexibility to see what 3 years brings and what the next 3 years will bring. And for us, COVID is still real. We're not post-COVID, we're not nothing. We really have to protect our children, and we have a whole process when they come into camp where they down in the lower parking and they get tested, and they don't come up to camp till their test is negative because all these children are too fragile. And so we still feel like we're in the thick of COVID. So it's important to us that we have options along the way. So with that, I can't thank everybody enough. It's been years and years of working with East Bay, and I feel like I've met new friends, and some of my friends have retired, and you know, it's been such a great experience, and especially for the families and for our donors. Our donors are real. They so believe in camp, and I know, Jim, you know how many of our big donors we have, and our commitment is to be really good stewards of their money, you know, and make sure we spend it like we should. And so it has, it's been a wonderful marriage overall. And there's times that are tough, you know, when you're talking contracts and we know we have X amount of money and we've got to make it go a long distance. It can get tough, but I think everybody has the same compassionate spirit, or you probably wouldn't be at East Bay.
Thank you
So
very much.
thank you.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much, Ms. Taylor.
Thanks. Happy to answer any questions if anybody
Okay, very
has.
good. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or does Mr. Miller have anything he'd like to say? Or?
I'd just like to thank everybody for their time and consideration. We get it that Camp Arroyo is a phenomenal asset for East Bay, and we look forward to continuing our share of the stewardship of this phenomenal asset that you have, and working together. I think it really enriches our community, far beyond just Livermore. It really is a Northern California asset. So anyway, just thank you for all your consideration, and we look forward to continue to work together.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Very nice comments. Yes, Director Wieskamp.
Elaine, I want to tell you that I have a neighbor whose son came to camp there. And it was such an amazing thing for the child and for the family too. So I just really respect your commitment and all your friends and people you got into the program, and they became more and more involved because you wouldn't let it not succeed. And
No.
there was no choice in the matter. So I've always respected what you did, and
Thank you.
All your friends that you got there, and the great events you had, and just all of it about helping kids who had no place else to go. And
Thank
so
you, ma'am.
congratulations, and I'm glad we can do this again and forever.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Director Rosario.
Yeah, no questions, but I just wanted to thank you for your vision and the wherewithal for continuing and also planning ahead. And it's as we're all going to be in the Milky Way sooner than later.
Right.
But I just you mentioned the camp for the burn victims. I remember when that facility first got built, East Bay Regional Park District had a firefighters association, and we supported the Ann Rook Burn Foundation.
Yeah.
And that was those were the most rewarding days that I remember. It was just so touching. And,
it is.
Yeah, and so I'm so happy to support the recommendation and you going forward for.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Taylor. And I agree with my colleagues. We're very fortunate that we have the opportunity to work with you and to provide help and services for the children that are involved in these programs. It's quite impressive. It shows your dedication.
I invite you guys to come out. We do, when a new group comes in, we do a welcome, and we have some kind of little goodie for them. And the kids, it's, all about the kids, but it's just, they're so excited to be there, and they're so excited. If it's a return camp, they're coming back to their friends, and those friends stick for life. And the biggest thing, if you ever watch any of our specials, is the whole theme of the special is you're just like me. And so they're in an environment where they're accepted and welcomed, and everybody's in the same boat, and they go on for life. They become bridesmaids at weddings of each other, and they become directors, and they get philanthropy majors. And, so it is, if you ever want to feel good and you're not embarrassed to cry in front of people, it's a great place. It just is wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Thanks.
Any other comments, questions anybody has? Thanks for making this very special program.
Thank you.
Making our day.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no other questions or comments, a motion's in order.
Glad to make the motion to approve.
Okay, this is moved by Director Wieskamp and seconded by
I will second.
Director Rosario. Please take the roll.
Director Rosario,
Aye.
Director Wieskamp,
Aye.
Director Corbett,
Aye.
so moved.
Thank you very much. We have approved that. Very happy to. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you
I
so
think
much.
we can applaud each other.
I'm in. I'm in. Thank you. Oh, God. I look forward to all the years to come. Thank you.
Yes, and we have another item that does involve this program as well. We're now looking at authorization to enter into an operating agreement with United Camps, Conferences, and Retreats for operation of Camp Arroyo at Camp Arroyo.
Absolutely. So I will continue with this next presentation, and we'll have some more guests joining for this portion. And camp is very much a team effort. And so in the next presentation, I'll be talking about the operator agreement, going into a little bit more the roles. We've already heard about Taylor Family Foundation, and then giving some updates on projects at camp, which are quite exciting. So with that, I will share my screen and get that going. And how's that? Is that the full screen?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, so still at Camp Arroyo, still at Livermore, so I won't tell you where it is again, but I tried to. We got some different angles of photos here. And the current operator at camp is United Camps, Conferences, and Retreats, and I'll introduce our guests later on. And the recommendation for this item will be to continue for a 3-year agreement with UCCR, as we call them. So again, I'll be talking about the support and relationships, what's the role of the operator, what the agreement length is, the projects, next steps, recommendations, and guests. Last but not least. The Park District's role at Camp Arroyo is supporting camp with an annual budget and supporting camp maintenance, and actually entirely taking care of camp maintenance. We have an annual budget of 1 park craft specialist and 1 ranger that are entirely dedicated to Camp Arroyo. And then as facilities supervisor, Sarah Lamborn will tell you a portion, significant portion of her time is also contributed to Camp Arroyo, as well as the admin support for the rental facilities. The Park District has also been providing the lifeguards at camp since 2019, and staff recommends that we continue to provide that service. We also are responsible for capital investments, many funding from our 553, major infrastructure funding, and other grant funding. I don't need to say what the role of the Taylor Family Foundation is, since we just covered that. But next I'll be talking about what the role of the camp operator is. So the camp operator takes care of the lodging, the meal service, housekeeping, janitorial, and then the program services. Pictured here is the challenge and ropes course. Also very important, and part of the initial concept for camp is offering the environmental education programs during the school year to complement the Taylor Family Foundation camps, which primarily happen in the summer. So similar to the Taylor Family Foundation, I just go through where we're at and what we're proposing. UCCR, thankfully, came in 2019 at relatively short notice. We got a 6-month notice from our prior operator that they were going to end their agreement with us. So we had initial 1.5-year agreement with UCCR to get settled and see how things were going, and then evaluate. Now it happened that in that first 1.5 years, that included 2020, which was COVID. So through the board's support, we had board authorized COVID financial relief that offered contract extensions to give concessionaires or operators and lessees some additional time to recoup some of the losses they experienced during COVID. So that was a 2-year extension to the initial 1.5 years. So total of 3.5 years. And youth camps and residential camps, along with events, but maybe even more than events, has been one of the longer sectors to reopen from COVID. I think we'll remember like golf was able to open really early. You can social distance, be outdoors. Obviously, at a residential camp, it's a lot, different situation. So it has taken a bit longer than some of the other areas to get a recovery from COVID. The proposed new agreement is for 3 years. And so in the spirit of what we had initially recommended to the board, or I think we had initially envisioned, was a trial period to see how the operation works out. We never really got to have UCCR experience a normal full year of operations. And so we're recommending a 3-year agreement to more fully evaluate how things are going for both parties. The initial agreement and the proposed agreement has no payment to EBRPD. And the initial agreement had no payment kind of in light of the all of the startup cost and having to come into a new operation. And then continuing into this 3-year period, 2 factors. One is the still, really wanting to make sure that the COVID recovery is solid. And then 2, as we talked about, the Taylor Family Foundation has some guaranteed discounted lodging rates that UCCR is willing to honor. And in light of that, they would not pay a fee to the district. They're fine with the TTFF guaranteed days. Those are what I already discussed. And then one thing that I wanted to highlight here, and we'll highlight later in the projects, is that the Park District does have on-site housing, and that would continue into the new agreement. And the housing is a really important, it's an important element for the operation of camp. From starting in about 2017 till now, we've completed almost almost $750,000 in projects. And that's why we have Assistant Finance Officer Jeff Rasmussen here. If we have any questions about those, we did the entry residence, full replacement. The yurt shown here was damaged in the 2017 winter storms. We received insurance funding to replace the yurt, cabin HVAC, heating and cooling. We did a replacement project, pool heaters, tree work, and then we're working on additional replacement of this congregate housing or staff housing, also known as the bunkhouse. So this picture here on the left side of your screen shows the old director's house, which is completely gone and replaced with the new house shown here. Concrete siding, really built to withstand the future of camp. And then shown here in the rendering or the drawing is the future staff housing, which if you've been there, it's at the top of the hill, and that can house up to 6 staff. Also completed in this timeframe going back to 2017, we completely redid the amphitheater benches. We did some culvert repair. That was a 2017 winter storm project. We have some very nice new pathways, repaired pathways that are much more safe for all abilities. So that's been a lot of work. And at the end, when I pause, if you have questions about any of those projects, Jeff is here. In terms of next steps, we're proposing the 3-year operating agreement. And what staff recommends, based in consultation with our council as well, is to issue a request for proposal in early 2025. So as this 3-year term comes to an end, we will go out to competitive bid as recommended by council. As we have learned in the past, there may be limited market for this type of operation, but that was the recommended process. And we've discussed that with UCCR, and they're amenable to that approach. So the overall recommendation is to recommend to the full board the 3-year term for the operating agreement with UCCR. And I will stop my screen share. And I also like to introduce Mike Carr and Heather Butler from UCCR. And I asked, I think Heather is going to speak to this. I asked them, I wanted them to be able to share a little bit with the committee as to how camp is going. I know that's been a question asked. Are camps full? What's the COVID situation? And so with that, I'd like to introduce Heather or Mike, and maybe if you guys can also introduce yourself and your title with UCCR.
Heather, you want to go first? Ladies first.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Butler, and I'm the director of the Web of Life Field School. And I've been working with Camp Arroyo since 2019. Thank you so much for all you do out there. I've gotten to spend a lot of time out there supporting the kids with the Taylor Foundation programs and with the outdoor education programs. I've been with UCCR for 24 years running the outdoor education programs, and was very excited to get to work with the outdoor education at Camp Arroyo. Mike, you want to introduce, and then I can give them more info?
Sure. Interestingly enough, Heather and I started with UCCR at the same time 24 years ago. UCCR has been around for 52 years, and we manage camp, conference, and retreat facilities around the nation for nonprofit organizations such as yourself. And it's been a privilege to work with East Bay Regional Parks and at Camp Arroyo.
Thanks. Tiffany, would you like me just to give a brief overview? Okay. Well, I kind of pulled out my numbers so we had some information. So in 2019, when we started, we were told that the previous operator had about 4,000 students a year. And so we came in June, and we saw a lot of students. In the fall, which is the outdoor education program time, we served 12 different schools with about 900 kids that came through. And then I just was counting up what we're doing this fall. This fall, we're going to see 14 schools. I don't have the student numbers yet because they're changing every day. But I know it's going to be more than 890 kids. So we're getting back to normal is the whole point. And the middle part that I skipped there, which is when everything stopped, we closed Camp Arroyo March 13th of 2020. So we had started a really nice year of outdoor ed in January of 2020. We had a full year booked. We had, I think, over 4,500 students booked to come that year. And the Taylor Family Foundation was set to come and bring all their summer camps. It was going to be a very full year. So we closed just about 3 months in. So we didn't open up again until May 29th of 2021. It was over a year later that we opened up. And I wanted to say thank you with all of you here for being such good partners, because we really wanted to make this work for the kids, for the outdoor education, and for supporting the Taylor Family Foundation groups. And we were able to stay because everyone supported each other. The Taylor Family Foundation was a huge support. The East Bay Regional Parks Foundation kicked in to help keep camp together and got all these wonderful projects done while we were closed, while the campers couldn't come. So in May, when the campers gradually started to come back, we had some day programs, some outdoor programs. We did a lot of outdoor education where kids couldn't stay in the cabins, but they did come visit the beautiful site. And then we gradually got rentals back in late 2021. And then 2022, We've been going again. The outdoor education started up at the start of the year. It's small. Teachers are worried, kids get sick. You know, there's still the whole concern about testing and, you know, what to do when one kid gets sick or the teacher gets sick. The Taylor Family Foundation came back and they had great programs this summer. I know they were concerned and had slightly smaller groups at some points because of concern about crowding people together. And this fall, our programs are coming together. You know, the outdoor ed is looking good. We have 14 groups coming this fall from different schools, and then spring there are 27 school programs scheduled, which is a lot. So it's 2023 looks to be huge. And Tiffany, I don't know if you want more than that, but that was kind of my summary.
Thank you. We'll see if the committee has questions, and we can always go into more detail.
Any questions, colleagues? Director Rosario?
Yeah, do you, I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad we were able to keep you here. But do you target a certain grade level for the camps?
Yes. For the outdoor ed camps, generally it's 5th and 6th graders. We are open to other grades, but when we work with East Bay Regional Parks Foundation, I believe that they wanted us to focus on the 4th through 7th, you know, to keep it into a certain area. And we talk with them regularly to see if there's any change in priorities.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Director Corbett, I do have one public comment on the item.
Yes, thank you very much. Introduce the person.
Sure. That would be Mr. Kelly Abreu. I'm admitting him now.
Okay.
Mr. Abreu?
Yeah.
You may proceed. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Okay. Well, in 2016, some members of this board of directors, maybe all of the people here in the room, voted to approve 340 spaces and $1.6 million at Mission Peak. And last week, about 7 days ago, the city announced that effectively announced that a deal has been inked in principle, and that they want to keep that under the cover, keep it under wraps until about 3 days before the meeting, which is in about a week. So the Park District and the city seem to be conducting the public's business secretly behind closed doors. As of right now, they're hiding that paper. It's like a Kremlin-style operation designed to keep the public in the dark. I'm calling upon you, your staff, to release the paper. You know, put it out there, and that's a public document, and get it out there and announce it now.
Please speak about the issue that's before us at the moment.
I'm on public comments, item number 4.
No,
it's open.
You requested for UCCR item and then public comments.
No, I read what I wrote.
I did.
I wrote immediately after UCCR. Have you read your agenda? You have 2 items that are item number 3. So I was specifically telling you that I want to talk about the item that came after UCCR, which is item number 3, public comments. You have confused the public and confused yourselves by having double counting, double numbering. You see that? Do you know how to read your agendas? All right, let's proceed. We're on public comments now, right?
We haven't gotten to that item yet, but go ahead and finish.
All right. And at Coyote Hills, in a similar vein, your operations department just posted a sign that has caused alarm among the visitors that says, notice, parking lot closing permanently on November 21, 2022. What is that supposed to put in the minds of people? That's 3 days before Thanksgiving, and you don't tell people what the replacement is. Of course, if you go to the website, you do find out that 6 months later, you're building a new parking lot. And what happens for the next 6 months? Well, it's kind of up in the air. You don't communicate with that. So you need to, your agency needs to care more about public communications. Your staff needs to ask itself, what will people think when they read this? How are we going to communicate that we do care about where people park And we do want to ensure that parking remains available out there near Paseo Padre Parkway. Now, luckily, both sides of Paseo Padre Parkway have empty space on curb parking for a mile in both directions. Also, right across the street, there's Commerce Drive, and the north side of Commerce Drive could be opened up if you cared to work with the city of Fremont. You could open up the north side for parking too, in addition to the
Mr.
south
Brew,
side.
that's your time.
Okay. All right. Are there any more comments regarding this item that's before us?
No, Chair Corbett, there isn't.
Any other comments by the board members? Anything else the presenters would like to say before we go to a vote? All right. The motion for the vote is in order. Moved by Director Wieskamp
I will happily second.
and seconded by Director Rosario. Please call the vote.
Yes, Chair Corbett. Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Corbett.
Aye.
So moved.
Okay. That motion
Congratulations
passes.
to staff. Great work.
And thank you, Ms. Butler and Mr. Carr. Thank you very much for your presentations as well.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. All right. Another great vote today. Thank you for that. I look forward to the work that will be done there. Anybody else have any other comments on that? Okay. Any other comments at the last item on the agenda?
I just wanted to thank staff for another great round of presentations. It's well presented and thoroughly backed up with data, so really makes it easy for all of us. So thank you very much.
Yes. Impressive meeting. Denise, is there anything else we need to move forward before we go to the next item to hear from?
I have no other items pending.
Okay, then we can hear from our current acting manager.
Great, thank you, Director Corbett. Yeah, I just had a couple things. I just want to make a really good announcement that David Kendall is our new unit manager for the Delta unit. Dan Cunning will be retiring, so he'll be his replacement. So we were very fortunate to get him on board. And then also Gordon Willie is going to be the acting Parklands unit manager in the interim, while Dan Sykes is currently the acting chief of park operations.
Okay.
That's great news. We have something to smile about. Yay.
Yeah, that's really good news.
Yeah, congratulations on Dan Cunning on retiring. He's he was a gem.
We're definitely going to miss him. He's been, you know, I've been really fortunate to have him over the last 6 years that I've been here. Just a really great person to work with.
Yeah, and I think David is a very good replacement. He's, having worked with him a couple of times, he's very, very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, all good news. Thank you. I'm sorry, I skipped over committee comments. Any committee comments before we go to the adjournment? Director Wieskamp?
I want to say that Gordon is used to managing tons of territory, so he should have no problems. He's an amazing person. He's always so low key and gets things done. So congratulations on that selection.
And thank you.
Yeah. We're new people in new positions. We have so much of that going on.
Testing it out.
Here.
Oh, yeah.
So,
it's like musical chairs, isn't it?
yes, let's all keep track. Please help us.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. And we appreciate their movement to these upper positions. Great. Thank you. Anything else, board members? Okay, very good. then the meeting is adjourned. Nice seeing you all. Take care. Great stuff
Great
done.
positive agenda. So thank you, as usual.